word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word, the word, switch the bracelet on the word.
Welcome along to the Word on Blake 7 podcast, and here we are at our latest episode. Welcome to Neil, to Dave, to Lynn. Nick has once again sent us in a video. He is missing this week's episode where we are going to review Mission to Destiny, transmitted Monday the 13th of February 1978, and the director was Pennant Roberts. And as always, I'll start the show with the program guide, Tony Atwood's program guide, his synopsis of the episode: Mission to Destiny. The Liberator encounters a Galaxy-class cruiser, Ortega, circling helplessly in space. Blake, Avon, and Callie teleport across and find that the pilot of the ship has been murdered and the rest of the crew rendered unconscious by gas rigged up to the air supply. The controls have been severely damaged so as to keep the ship in a circling orbit. However, there is no indication of who was responsible or why. The Liberator crew stop the tranquilizing gas from circulating and recycle normal air. They then talk with the crew of the ship and discover that it is taking a neurotrope back to its home planet, Destiny, where it will be put in orbit in order to neutralize some of the rays of the star around which Destiny moves. In this way, a deadly fungus which is killing the plant life on the planet will be destroyed, and Destiny's agricultural economy will be able to continue as before. Blake offers to take the neurotrope to Destiny on the Liberator, whilst Callie and Avon remain on the Ortega in order to effect repairs. Although Kendall, the leader of Ortega's crew, agrees at once, some of the rest of the crew are uneasy about the situation. However, a majority of one allows Blake to take the neurotrope onto the Liberator. On the way to Destiny, the Liberator comes into contact with a huge meteorite storm which seriously drains the energy banks. During the storm, the container holding the neurotrope moves from its position on the table and drops onto the floor. Checking for damage, Blake finds that they have been given an empty container and that the neurotrope is still clearly on board the Ortega, towards which he immediately turns the Liberator. On board Ortega, meanwhile, a second body has been discovered, and soon after there is a third murder. However, the murderer and reason for murdering are still unknown, although it is suggested that anyone who got hold of the neurotrope would be an ideal bargaining position, holding as they would the future of an entire planet in their hands. It then becomes evident that there is a spaceship approaching the Ortega, presumably to rendezvous with the murderer and possessor of the neurotrope. Avon realizes that a message left by the murdered pilot in his own blood was in fact not coded, but merely the result of the pilot's hand faltering as he died. He then translates the murderer's name as that of the girl Sarah, who immediately admits responsibility and locks herself in the pilot's cabin to await the ship that will take her and the neurotrope away. Avon arranges a masquerade to make it sound as if the rescue ship has landed and a fight is going on outside. This induces Sarah to come out of the cabin, and she's immediately grabbed and put under arrest. The entire crew of the Ortega teleport back to the Liberator in order to be taken to their planet Destiny. At the last moment, Sarah throws away her bracelet and thus avoids teleportation. However, the moment the rescue ship docks with the Ortega, there's a massive explosion, Blake having rigged up explosive devices on the docking mechanism, and Sarah is killed. So, there we have it. Neil, we will start with you tonight. Give us your views on the storyline and the script of this one.
A whodunit in space with Avon, I don't know, being Poirot and Callie being Miss Marvel. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm gonna just caveat you. I'm not a huge fan of whodunits in general, and in all honesty, I'm not a huge fan of it sneaking its way into Blake 7 here. But I'll just get that out the way. And I'm usually a massive fan of everything Blake 7, so just getting that up front. It starts in a lovely violent way, though, doesn't it? Hoppy Hopwood from Green Jill gets battered with a hammer at the ship's flight deck there. And then, the crew come across a drifting old spaceship in space, which is never ends well, really, when you go and rendezvous with these things. So they should have, we had one of these in Time Squad, didn't we? A drifting kind of spaceship. So old trope in sci-fi a little bit. I thought it was a bit of a departure for Blake just to go and investigate. Whereas up to now, every episode is focused on him either having a purpose, blow something up usually, or to get some kind of revenge on the Federation. But we just kind of decide we're going to go and look at this drifting ship for some unknown reason. And I also found it interesting that we've only just had the faces of the Federation, Encyclocate, Destroy, Travis and Servalan, and straight away we go away from the Federation at all. And it's the first episode where the Federation aren't mentioned whatsoever, hardly. I think it's mentioned twice in the entire episode. So I found that a little bit strange to run away from that straight away. We do get to hear of a planet, obviously Destiny, outside of Federation control for the first time, which is again a little bit of world building, a universe building there, which I found quite interesting. But then I found the whole thing on the Ortega a little bit slow, if I'm going to be honest. But that's just possibly my preferences again coming through personally. And I can remember watching this for the first time on a rerun. I thought the old 54124 was obvious from second one. To be fair, as soon as you discovered what the name of the female character Sarah was, so I just it doesn't hang for me. The episode doesn't hang together. You get this cast of bizarre misfits on this ship that don't seem to really like each other very much, apart from the two of them. Sarah Mandarin, is in Mandarin, yeah, it is. And I'm not quite sure why the crew of the Ortega trust Blake, Callie, and Avon from second one. They've just woken up from being knocked out by this Soma gas. There's these 3 people here that they don't know, and all of a sudden they're letting them take control and letting them be in charge and letting them rip their ship up and all sorts of things. And I'm like, that doesn't seem very realistic to me. Just a couple of other things, really. Again, they're meant to be going to Destiny really quickly, but why is this standard by 6? Why didn't you just go as fast as you can? I don't. It doesn't make any sense to me, that either. And I think we've got a timing issue, which perhaps comes under direction more than story, but it probably is story as well. The Liberator seems to be taking forever to be able to get to Destiny, and then is managed to whip back quite quickly. So I don't really understand what happened. And the passage of time in this episode doesn't really make much sense. How long are Avon and Callie on the Ortega for? I struggle a bit with that as well. So Avon works it all out in the end, and we do get a great few Darrow grins and one-liners in this one, and I think Darrow and Jan Chapel play off each other quite well in this episode. Probably it's saving grace, to be honest. So that's my general thoughts. What could have done better? Not be there. Unfortunately, I'm not a fan of this episode.
Okay. Honest assessment. That's what we like.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, who done it in space? Neil's described it as.
I had that down, so I'll quickly change it to Columbo in space.
Just one more question, Dave.
Just one more thing, man. Just one more thing. Columbo in space. I agree with what Neil said.
This is going back from the last episode.
Hey. Have we done a previous episode?
Did we? Yeah, I think we have.
I mean, the story, it is a whodunit in space. It just seems to have been thrown in. It's got nothing to do with the storyline so far. It doesn't develop the storyline. It's quite jarring after the last episode. It's the sort of thing you do if you've written a series out and then somebody tells you we need one more episode and they just drop something in. So in terms of, developing the story and moving the story on, it doesn't do any of that. It's quite boring when they get back on that ship. The characters are quite dull. Is it Dr. Kendall?
Yes.
the guy in charge, I mean, he's an absolute idiot, isn't he? He's as dull as dishwater. You know, they're all woken up by these strangers, as Neil said, and it doesn't occur to him he's got this precious cargo on board. It doesn't occur to him for ages, and he says, "Oh, perhaps I should better check." You know, and there's about 3 times in the episode where he'll say, "I've got no explanation why anybody would murder anybody on this." He just seems to have amnesia about this cargo that he's got on board. It's ridiculous, you know. And Blake as well, you know, they have a vote. Are they going to let Blake take this contraption? And was it 4-3?
Yeah.
You know, 4-3 vote in favour. So the girl, Liz Truss, she reminds me of Liz Truss for some reason. And obviously that's not a good thing. She goes away, she comes back with a box. And Blake doesn't even bother to look in the box. He's going to go up through hyperspace and he doesn't even bother to look if it's in the box. I'm thinking, what's going on here? But Kendall really got on my nerves. So it was full of plot holes. I found it quite dull. In fact, the first time I watched it, I fell asleep and I had to wind it back again. Wind it back, there's an old term. I had to play it back.
Wind it back. Very good.
Yeah, wind it back. You know, I'm living in the past. It's just actually, that reminds me, the picture quality, I don't know what yours is like, and I don't know what it's like on Blu-ray, but there's quite a few scenes in this particular episode where the picture quality on the DVD went very, very bad and grainy. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know whether that was a special effect they were trying to get in certain rooms, but when they went into the room where the air filters were, it really went downhill. You know, I thought it was really poor.
It's vastly improved on the Blu-ray. Yeah,
well, it might have been a look they were going for in different parts of the ship. I don't know, but it wasn't a good look. So that's all my problems with it. It's a whodunit in space. It was totally unnecessary. It was a wasted episode from the point of moving the story forward. And, you know, after the previous episode, I was looking forward to see what was going to happen next. And we get this sort of diversion. There's no real reason why Blake should do what he does. And of course, the Galaxy 3 looked like a connector block in space on that screen. Just like that's an electric connector box, Steve. You won't know what that is because you don't do DIY, you know. But it just looked like a connector box going round and round in circles. Why somebody won't go and investigate that, I just don't know.
So on the Blu-ray, it's a lot better. Believe you me.
You can see the screw heads, can you?
It looks a lot better. The only thing this episode was missing was this, to be honest. And that's just because I haven't deleted it yet from the photograph.
There it is again.
I might just keep it for posterity. Lynn, what was your feelings on this episode?
So I'm okay. I'm in line with the other two here. Yeah, not really necessary, somewhat out of place, and a bit dull. It's So I think a couple of other things I picked up. You said there's that single conceit. I mean, I know if you're going to do a proper Agatha Christie, if you want, with the sort of Poirot type thing at the end, you've got to give enough clues. And there was one single conceit, which was the numbers letters, right? Plus, of course, the fact that Dr. Kendall asked Sarah to go and fetch the Nutritope to give to Blake, which gave her the opportunity to take it before he checked, and everything hangs on two things that it's just that's not right for me at all. Also, the fact that Kendall had made a big play of the fact that only he could open it because it was coded to all sorts of things. Sarah could collect it, Blake could open it on the Liberator. Again, it just doesn't fit together. Why did nobody from the Ortega go with Blake on the Liberator? I mean, Avon and Callie stayed on the Ortega. I kind of get that. But why then did nobody go with Blake to take this terribly valuable Nutritope to Destiny? That doesn't work for me either.
Yeah.
Point up.
It's just another piece. You know, they all go, yeah, okay, bye. 4-3. We voted. Off you go. That was weird. Yeah, the timing is weird. I don't know if that's Pennant Roberts. He did Spacefall as well, where I think we agreed the timing was uncertain and
nine months that journey was meant to have taken, wasn't it?
It felt like you're watching it.
That's one of your favourites so far, Dave. Exactly. So I think looking at the other side, you're right. Avon and Callie, that starts to work well together. You know, you've got some good stuff there. Yeah, it was just a letdown after Seek, Locate, Destroy, and that kind of high. You want more of that, and we got very far from that, which is a shame. That's a shame.
I just want to throw one more thing in it. I think Avon's out of character. I don't think there's any way that Avon would have stayed on that Ortega ship. Why? And the line to try and justify it, because I think he knows he's out of character,
true, exactly.
is that, I like a good mystery. I like a good mystery. That's as far as the justification goes. I just he's out of character in this, not in the way that he is, but in the fact that he would stay there with Callie. There's no way he would have done that.
Yeah, I would agree. One of the notes I made, other than the stuff that you have all already mentioned, I've put Zen heavy. A lot of Zen in this at the start of the episode. Peter Tuddenham obviously working overtime with the conversation backward and forward with Blake and Jenna. Bit of time filling in there, and there was a hell of a lot of walking. Which I just, if you're getting your steps in, me and Dave like a walk, but Callie must have done 40,000 steps on this episode, walking backwards and forwards for no apparent reason at times. It was, I found that annoying. I was getting dizzy at times with that. So yeah, it didn't really have a point. It really didn't have a point as to why she was doing all of this. But ultimately, there was some great parts of the script, and they did explain it, and it was a whodunit, but it was disappointing because, as you've already said, we had this whole situation, establishing the Federation, and Travis chasing Blake, and it was going to be something which we were all looking forward to and going to enjoy. But then it's we've been sidetracked with this episode. So yeah, very strange, and not my favorite episode. I've got to be perfectly honest. But yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I remember this not being a great episode to watch first time around. Certainly think, having watched the Blu-ray version now, the Blu-ray version's very good, well worth a watch on Blu-ray. So if you haven't watched the Blu-ray version yet, give it a watch. I think you'll be quite impressed with it. Okay, so we move on from the storyline and the script. We go on to the director and the direction. As we've already mentioned, it was Pennant Roberts who directed this one. Neil, what's your feelings on Pennant's direction of this?
Pennant Roberts gets another drifting spaceship story, and I'm afraid the whole thing drifts for me. There's no pace to it at all, in my view. It starts with the killing at the start, and then just gets slower from there. I like that first scene, mine. That was shot really well when you saw everything from the murderer's perspective. So you didn't know who it was, but you saw what was done to Raffet, whatever his name was, can't remember. Rafford, that's it.
Dr. Richard Hillman.
Yeah, Grange Hill.
Yeah, Richard Hillman from Coronation Street. Brian Capron. I actually know Brian very well.
Do you know what?
Nice guy.
I thought it was Coronation Street.
He was Grange Hill as well, wasn't he, I think?
Grange Hill as well, yeah.
The Nutritope explanation between Blake and Kendall went on forever. Dear me. I thought I was going to fall asleep, and that needed cutting down or something else done to it, I thought. The incidental music was really good throughout, I thought, on a positive, but I don't know what that's got to do with the director or not, but I thought that worked quite well. In general, the pacing is slow.
Jazzy, wasn't it?
Yeah. Pacing, I guess, is kind of slow in whodunit stories, though, but there wasn't enough grip for a whodunit story, to be honest. The flight thing, liberating with the Destiny, we've already mentioned, that didn't work at all. We get a fight scene as well, don't we? The Sarah Avon grapple. It looks like they're having a slow smooch dance before Avon finally puts a right hook on her. That's poorly done as well, to be honest, and carries on the tradition of poor fight scenes, if you want to call it a fight scene. But it also starts Avon's propensity for playing rough with women, which you'll see a bit later on as well. Sorry,
But then he's lying after it, Neil, after he's finished,
Yeah.
you know, about rather enjoying it. You
Yeah,
know.
I know. I was a bit. What's going on there? And I was about to say, it starts his propensity for being a bit rough with the women. To be honest, don't know what's going on there. They blow the place up, and then they set off for Destiny again with all the Destiny, the Altega crew on board, and they set off again at standard by 6. Right, I'm gonna go slow there. I just thought the whole thing was slow. And at times a difficult watch, unfortunately. So direction wise, it seemed to me as if there was about 35 minutes of an episode here, and we're going to stretch it out to make it fit 50.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. It was a rather tenuous watch. Lynn, what's your thoughts on the direction from Pennant on this one?
I'm certainly echoing what Neil said there, and I know I think I dropped out very briefly at the start, so I'm not sure if he mentioned all the corridors and the different coloured lights. But sorry, when I say all the corridors, what I mean is the one corridor and all the different coloured light bulbs. It's kind of. I mean, I know that this is partly a budget thing, Dave, and of course it is, and a set thing, but it's still kind of, it's like,
wait till pressure
guys,
point.
You can still do you can still do better, right? You can still do better. I think there was some, it felt a bit like, was it the sort of direction by numbers? This isn't my area, but the kind of Sondheim apparently coming up towards Callie, is he trying to strangle her and he's just moving her out of the way? It's just like, oh, it's so obvious. Is it really? And the door knocking open and Callie going, what's that? And a bloke falls out, exactly. It's, as I say, it just feels like that kind of direction by numbers for a whodunit or something.
The dead body breaks his fall. You notice that? He put his arms out even though he's dead.
Yes. So all of that it just doesn't. Yeah, you're like, oh, put some effort into it, guys, and that's on the direction side. It feels as much as anything else. I kind of smiled when they talked about launching the life rocket, the life rocket, which hadn't actually been launched, because it hadn't occurred to me that we'll come back to something like that a little bit later. But I sort of put a pin in that one because I thought that's I was going to say we've done that before, but that's because actually we're going to do it later. But hey, that's what you get for watching these a lot. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Pennant Roberts and his direction on the whole. And given we've got a kind of uninspiring, odd storyline and script, he hasn't done it any favors at all.
Okay, Dave.
Yeah, who's done it? Who cares? Very stiff, stilted acting. There wasn't a character on the ship Galaxy that I would want to have a conversation with, never mind go and save their lives. They were really boring and dull. Sondheim, sending the clowns. Do you see what I did there?
Yes.
Right.
Very good.
The bit I did like, actually, and I think Steve didn't like it, but I thought that the episode opened up quite good. I thought it was very humorous with Zen and Jenna and Blake. There was a good bit of comedic to and fro at the beginning there, which I quite enjoyed. And there was some light bits with Avon and Villa as well. So they're building quite a good partnership up. And the guys have changed costumes again. Now, I haven't kept up with this. Have they changed costumes every episode? Well, poor Jenna is still stuck in that outfit. And Blake
it's a slightly different one.
Outfit. They change every 10
Jenna's,
minutes.
But Jenna's still got the petals, but it's actually a different. It's a different color and a different. But it's the same sort of style. But it is different. Still got the bloody petals on it though.
Well, it looks the same to me. Can you see that?
I think they do swap every time. pretty much at the moment.
Sorry, what was that, Lynn?
Yeah, they pretty much do, particularly the men, as you say, swap
Yeah.
costume pretty much every episode. Yeah.
And Gan looks like he's an extra from Robin Hood Men in Tights in this episode. You know, he's gone very Friar Tuckish, but never mind.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, I just thought it was very pedestrian, Steve. There wasn't any tension for a whodunit. There could have been tension. There wasn't. The door handles were different in this one, and I thought they were quite good. They were square and futuristic, you know, probably early IKEA. What can I say? That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, the direction of this, I think he struggled, and he's given the episode, I guess, and maybe he's just drawn the wrong episodes out of the hat. Pennant, maybe he could have done better with a different episode, but it's not great, and it's the corridors. You're going round and round and round. Like Lynn's mentioned, I mentioned it earlier. It drives you loopy. You say you like the start with Zen. I didn't like that. I thought it was too Zen heavy, and I thought that there was the humor. I get it. I think that was quite good, but I just think there was too much Zen at the start. It does start to grain on you as well, where Blake at one point does he tell him to go at what was the speed? I'm sure he mentions 4 at the start. You know,
4. It was a 4.
4. It is 4. Yeah, and you're thinking, why 4? You know, like you've got the best ship in the galaxy. Why aren't you hitting top speed to get anywhere? You know, you should be able to do that. But
what is top speed?
Standard by 12.
12.
Is it?
Yeah.
So why are they going at 4? I don't know. That is a pet hate of
Perhaps
mine.
the diesel's very expensive, Stephen. It might be a budgetary concern.
Well, maybe it's something to do with the budget. Yeah, I never thought of that. I didn't like the camera, and this comes down to direction. I didn't like the first murder of Brian Capron's character. I thought it looked rather amateurish. The wobbly camera effect, which he did, and again, because I had doors on my mind from Dave's previous comment about doors, I was starting to look at the doors in this, and I thought, oh my God, these doors are going to be awful. But they actually worked quite well. But yeah, it was the camera. You cheat a lot with cameras when you're filming, and I was looking for discrepancies in the corridors. I couldn't find any other than it was the same corridor. But they did make it, shooting it from different angles, made it look as if it was as part of the same ship. But yeah, overall, the direction, I just think it could have been a lot better. I don't think he did very well on this episode, but I think it's down to the script that he was given and doing a whodunit in space. And I think you've already mentioned budget, but I think this was like almost an episode of Softly in space. I think this, in fact, if I remember rightly, I think this storyline was actually originally or it was based originally on a storyline for an episode of Softly. I'd need to double check that, but I'm pretty sure I've read that somewhere, that this was a script that had been rewritten like for Blake 7.
I've read somewhere allegedly this was Terry Nation's favourite episode of the first season.
Oh my God, couldn't have been. Wow. Unbelievable. Well, we've all got opinions, all got tastes. Who can we argue with Mr. Blake 7? But it's very strange one, and I'm sure that most Blake 7 fans aren't. This isn't in the top, certainly not in that top 5, if that top 10. But I could be wrong, but I don't think so. So that is the director and direction. Let's move on to best and worst special effects. We've already touched a little bit on costumes, but we'll still look at them. Special effects and costumes, Neil, in this one, please.
Not a lot of special effects in this one, to be honest.
No.
We do get a lot of good model footage of the Liberator on her travels, so I'm always geekily happy with that. So that's good for me. And we haven't got any animation in this one at all. So happy days. No animated Liberator, so that's good for me as well.
Not even from the actors.
I don't know yet. Particularly the guest cast. And even the asteroid rocks are okay for 1970s BBC. They could go horribly wrong, but but they were all right-ish. They got away with it. The worst special effects, Callie plugged into the Liberator comm system with the headphones. That just makes me giggle. It looks funny. The space condition report, did you notice that on the Ortega and his old dot matrix printout reams of it? that was funny as well. I was going to have that in the future. But the worst one, of course, is the Ortega ship itself. It's a shocker. It looks dreadful. It doesn't even look like a spaceship. I don't know what it's trying to look like, to be honest. But that's it from me. There's not really a huge amount, is there, in this episode on the special effects front? I don't think.
No, definitely not. Props as well, of course. I mean, I'm going to chuck in Sarah's gun, which was clearly some kind of diffuser.
Yeah.
Like a hairdryer diffuser, I think. I mean, not that I've got one, but I've seen one in the house. I sadly can't produce a photograph of it for you today, but it was if you've watched the episode, Sarah's diffuser gun was quite bizarre. Looked very spacey. But Lynn, costumes as well. I mean, for me, costumes. Yeah, go on, Neil. You give us your costumes.
Not a lot going on costume-wise in this, really, is there either, to be honest, apart from all of the crew and the Ortega's outfits are awful. Big collars. We'll see some collars later on as well in some future episodes as well in Blake 7. So we like a collar for some reason. The Ortega crew. I'm going to go with Mandarin's green number as the worst, though. I thought they looked like it had been put on in bits. It didn't even look like it was it was an outfit all in one. The best outfit, I don't know. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I'm going to go with Callie's tie-dye number simply because Jan Chapel can look good in anything. So I'm gonna sit with that.
Well, I'm definitely going to go for the gun as the worst thing. Props, special effects, and I'm personally going to go for a double combo. Blake's top, which I thought was wonderful. The green tunic bit and the Olympic, the tribute to the Olympic symbols on his arms. If you look at the sleeves, I quite like that. In fact, Dave, I could see you wearing that. And Avon's flares, I bet you have. Avon's flares were tremendous. He had a proper wide on with those flares on this episode.
Absolutely did, yeah.
They were fantastic, Avon's flares in this episode. So yeah, it was a combination of Blake's top and Avon's flares for me. Lynn, special effects wasn't really many, but I mean, anything that stood out for you, anything that really bugged you, and costumes as well. Oh, we've lost your sound, Lynn. Sorry, we've lost your sound. We can see you, we can't hear you.
Nothing that stood out special effects wise. I think one that. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm back. Okay.
You're back.
Sorry, slight challenge. One thing that grated, I thought, unless anyone's mentioned it, the meteor shower, the meteorites they were going through, they were clanging like someone was chucking things at a bin. I wasn't quite sure how you'd hear that on the bridge, to be fair. But
BBC Radio.
Otherwise, nothing much. Costumes, you're right. They were spectacularly wide flares. Spectacularly wide flares. You're quite right. More petals for Jenna, which I wasn't getting on with at all. Very big collars. It's the 70s, right? We're peaking at the end of the 70s in terms of some of that. I'm not sure I could pick a favourite from all of that.
Okay, good stuff, yeah. Dave.
See.
Worst special effects was the Galaxy 3, Type 3, which just looked like an electric connector block going around in circles. And the rest of it, as you say, there wasn't much to talk about. Costumes, all the boring people on the Galaxy with the big wide collars and the turtlenecks. And I just thought they were exactly the right type of guys to be wearing turtleneck tops. As dull as ditch water. And that's it.
Okay, moving on to best actor and worst actor in the episode, Neil.
It it's a big supporting cast in this one, isn't there? There's quite a few of them, and I don't think any of that supporting cast actually cover themselves in any glory at all. Unfortunately, you would have thought that that the guy playing Kendall, he's got a load of credit. Yeah, he's got a load of credits. Got his name written here somewhere. I've lost it.
Barry
Jackson. He's got a list of credits as long as your arm, so you would have thought he would have been a little bit more impressive than what he was. It was interesting to see John Leeson in front of the camera, of course, K9 as Pasco, so we don't normally see him in front of camera. And Beth Morris, who played Sarah, is quite a well-known actress as well from Swansea, Welsh lass. But she's quite ropey as well. The worst actor for me, though, is Nigel Humphreys as Sondheim. Is awful. Just, I don't know, you could have put a plank of wood there and it would have been better, probably. I just terrible. Best actor, struggling a bit with this, to be honest, because I thought Avon was out of character. Even though Paul Darrow gave a good performance, I thought he was out of character. So I'm gonna go with Paul, because I think he does manage to put it off and smirk a bit and play Avon, even though he's a bit out of character for the whole thing. But I don't think it's a spectacular performance by anyone in this, and I think that's possibly down to the script.
Okay, Lynn?
Yeah, broadly in line there. I think, supporting cast. I mean, and I didn't write down her name, which is a shame, but the woman who played Levitt was given virtually no lines, probably about 3. But again, an odd delivery, even given the context, if you like. But again, it's all much of a muchness. And I did go with Paul Darrow in the end, just because, as you say, he delivered what he was doing. He was doing a good Avon job, even though it was not quite Avon. Kind of hard to rave about anything this week.
Dave, best and worst actor?
I think the best actor was probably Zen in this.
Peter Tuddenham.
He was quite good. It's interesting what you're saying about Avon being out of character, because I noticed watching this episode, he was much more subservient to Blake than he had been in previous episodes. He just did what he was told all the time in this, and he didn't challenge anything. I picked up on that as well. I thought everybody on the ship were pretty dull. Sondheim was just trying to play a caricatured, miserable sod, and he just did it very badly. But I thought the villain, Sarah, I thought she was particularly bad, because, that was a part she could have done something with. And I thought she was really poor, considering she had a meaty part. So she would be my worst, and as I say, for best, I don't know, Zen or Avon.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on Paul Darrow being the best in this. I see where you're coming from with Peter Tuddenham. He had a lot to say in it, which was probably, the script was good for him. Callie, if there was an award on the show for best walking, she would have got it, because as I say, she did 40,000 steps plus in this episode alone. Worst actor, Kendall wasn't great in this. I do think you're right about Sarah. Beth Morris, again, she didn't really take, didn't take the advantage of that part that she was given. But it's Nigel Humphreys as Sondheim for me, who's horrendous. He's just not believable. There's a weird bit at one point where his eye seems to stick, which really it stuck out when I watched it back. He's doing a scene to camera, and I thought, is there something wrong with his eye in this episode? But his eye was like closed.
It was when he was saying, I didn't do it or whatever, when he was meant to have killed.
Yeah, he's like that.
Yeah.
And I thought, what's happened to his eye?
He'd been trying Travis's makeup on from the previous episode. I think that's what it was.
It's weird. That's how interesting this particular storyline was. That my mind was like, what's the matter with his eye? But anyway, he was definitely the worst. Wasn't very convincing, and he gets the worst actor for me. Okay, best line of this particular episode, Neil?
There are a few creeping out of this episode, to be honest. Most of them are Avon, if I'm going to be honest. Because
Yeah.
it's quite Avon centered this episode without a shadow of a doubt. You know, I liked after the punch, you'd better get her out of here. I really rather enjoyed that. Not sure where that's coming from, but I like the delivery. I also had a giggle at personally. I don't care if their whole planet turns into a mushroom. I thought that was funny. But I'm gonna have to be a Blake 7 traditionalist and go with the line that Callie gave about my people. I was saying the man who trusts can never be betrayed, only mistaken. So that's going to be my favourite line, and that's simply because it actually comes up and is re-quoted later on in a future episode as well. So
Spoiler alert.
but yeah, episode away, Dave. But yeah, so I'm good.
To me, you know, I'm watching this live, you know, episode by episode, and you keep dropping hints in about the future. No wonder I can't sleep nights.
So, so that's my favourite line, like because it's probably not the best line in it, but because of what it signifies and is.
Mine is that that little exchange between Callie and Avon, where Callie basically says, "Remember that, Avon. And I will be staying. We will regard ourselves as hostages against Blake's return." And Avon goes, "Well, thank you, Callie. What a clever idea." And then she decides to use a telepathy, which very rarely gets used by Callie. She goes, "Blake will return." And Avon goes, "You can bet your life on it. In fact, you've just bet both of our lives on it." So yeah, Blake, and in the script it actually says Blake smiles at their banter. But yeah, that was my favorite exchange, favorite line of this particular episode. Lynn, what about you?
So I suppose too, and they're both Avon, that the follow up to yours, Neil, of life expectancy must be pretty low on your planet, which I got amongst your people. I forget, I didn't write it down, but I think that's, you know, that kind of adds to it, which I liked. But there was the other throwaway, and as often it's Avon and Villa. He checked back, Avon with Villa on the Liberator and said, "Are you awake?" To which Villa goes, "No." Because Avon's like, "That's what I thought," and then they carry on, and it's just one of those little exchanges between them that just keeps going, and yeah, you kind of got a smile. So that was mine. Apart from the mushroom line, which you already mentioned.
Dave?
Avon, it's easy to be honest when you have nothing to lose.
Very good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Avon does get some cool lines.
He does. Now, is it Callie or Callum?
Callie.
Callie.
I haven't warmed to her at all yet. Does she get better? You all look shocked. Yeah. I haven't warmed to her in any of the episodes yet. I don't know what it is.
I suppose you've only actually, think about it, this is only the 4th episode you've seen her in.
3rd or 4th, yeah.
But yeah, 4th. So I think there is more, and I think, I hope you do. I certainly did after this. There is more.
Good.
Neil,
I think there's a characterization problem with Callie.
Yeah,
and it's evident even now at this stage. You know, from what she was meant to be at the outset, and what she is in some episodes and isn't in some episodes. It's sometimes.
Well, that's what
it's
I'm thinking.
Inconsistent.
You know, she's not as interesting. She's quite one-dimensional, and that's clearly the writing. And you know, and I'm just hoping it develops a bit more. You know,
it's like Steve mentioned then. You know, the telepathy, and Lynn went, telepathy for once. You know, she's a telepathic, and she uses it once in a blue moon.
Yeah, I think it's only used twice, hasn't it? I think.
Yeah, crazy.
And the other one is, I mean, does Gan get to do anything more except stand there smiling?
He served squash today in this run, didn't he? He served squash in this episode.
All will become very apparent, Dave.
He did.
Do not worry. We're not spoiler for you. Before we give our marks out of 10.
Remember, you don't want any spoilers.
You
No
don't want any
spoilers.
spoilers.
No spoilers.
I'll have to stop being quiet. Sorry, Dave.
By the way, the Blu-ray, which I always go on about, I have watched the Blu-ray episode of this, and there are some wonderful additions. If you use the newest effects, the establishment of the Liberator going to and from the Ortega is wonderful. Moving away from the Ortega, it's just it's really, really good what they've done. They've made some great additions to it, and they look genuine. It does help massively. It really does. And like I mentioned, even though this hasn't been the best episode, the crystal clear colours that stand out from some of the costumes on the or just the close-ups of the actors' faces and stuff. It's such a great job that they've done. So I kind of praise the people enough.
Is the eye still stuck though?
Yes, the eye is still stuck, sadly, yeah.
Right.
Even on the Blu-ray, they haven't altered the eye. But yeah, we will now get Nick's take on this episode, his marks out of 10 before I ask everybody else.
Steve, so here's my review for Mission to Destiny, which, again, I really enjoyed. I like murder mysteries, and this was just that. Could have been written for any genre of TV show, really, but moulded very well into the sci-fi scenario in this case. I thought Avon did a cracking job as a sort of Miss Marple, solving the whole problems. If you want to think of him as Sherlock Holmes, then Callie was a very good Dr. Watson as well. It's a really good supporting cast. They had like Brian Capron in a very early role, pre-Grange Hill and Coronation Street. Didn't last long, of course, he gets killed off in the first scene. But also Barry Jackson and John Leeson in there. John Leeson did the voice of K9 for Doctor Who for many, many years. I like the plot generally, all fit together really well. I liked seeing that Blake had this sort of really ruthless side at the end where he lays these explosive charges to kill Sarah and her accomplices, which is a bit of a unexpected turn perhaps. In terms of direction and plot holes, there's one, I suppose, in so much as when they realise that they haven't got that neutrotope on the Liberator, they turn around to head back to the Ortega. It seemed to take them next to no time when they'd been battling their way through a meteorite storm on the way there. But hey ho, we'll ignore that. So usual things. Best actor, I thought easily was Paul Darrow as Avon. Worst actor, I would have to give to Brian Capron for breaking his fall as he falls out of that cupboard when he was meant to be dead. So naughty man. Best costume. I think maybe Jenna's, and worst costume Callie's. That green affair I didn't really like. Best line was Avon's, I thought, with "You better get her out of here." I really rather enjoyed that after he just punched Sarah in the face.
Great stuff. Thank you to Nick for sending that in. I've just another thing that it just remembered was that when the box fell off, when the spaceship accelerates, the Liberator accelerates, and the box falls off, Gan's sitting in the seat, he's like that. And then the box, it was such a pathetic fall. It really was, the box falling onto the floor. Again, but that nitpicking again. I am going to give the first mark today, Neil. I am going to give this a 6. I'm not going to give it any more than a 6. So it's the lowest mark for me so far on an episode. 6 out of 10, Neil. What about you?
I thought this was my least favourite Blake 7 episode. But watching it back, despite what I've said, it isn't. So it's a 5.5 for me. Oh,
so I've actually been rather generous. All right, okay. Lynn, what about you?
If I'm pressed, I'll go 5.
It's
all
5.5.
Right.
We're being digital, man. It's sci-fi.
Lynn. Oh, Lynn's on freeze mode again. So we'll come back to Lynn. Dave, what about you?
I've given it a 5. I think I've been generous, but I've given it a 5. So okay. I'm not going to change mine now. Did Nick give a score at the end there? I didn't hear it.
I don't think he did.
He didn't?
No, he didn't. He seemed to cut off, unfortunately. Yeah. But we got the gist of how we felt about it. I think he was probably going to give it a 7, but we will find out. when he comes back to do
Well, it's
the
a
next.
5 from me.
It's a 5 from you, so that's a 5.5, a 5, a 6. Can we get Lynn?
5.5.
Lynn? We've lost Lynn.
Yeah, I'm
no,
here, you
she's
can
still
hear
there.
me.
You are still there. We can hear you, Lynn. Go for it.
Excellent. 6. I know I'll be fairly negative, but I know what's coming, and I have some lower scores. 6 it is for this one.
6 as well, same as me.
Hang on.
That is,
Hang on. You've
Go
got
on, Dave.
some lower scores.
yeah.
And you want me to watch this?
Yes.
I can't. I know. Sorry.
You're not selling it, Lynn. You're not selling
I
it.
think 6 will rank. So when I get to some other,
Okay. We've had a few technical issues with Lynn tonight, sadly, but we got there in the end. Can I just thank everybody? For their time? Thanks to Neil. Thanks to Nick.
apologies.
Thanks to Dave. Thanks to Lynn. And everybody else who's jumped on the show. We've had a few guests over the course of our first 8 episodes. It's been great to have a regular audience, and just keep supporting the show. We just wish you a happy Christmas and a prosperous 2025, and we will be back in the new year with episode 8, which is Duel. But for now, good night from me. Good night, everybody.
Peace and
Have a
love.
great Christmas.
Season
Peace and love.
chickens, guys.
The word, the word. Switch the bracelet on the word, the word. The word, the word. Switch the bracelet on the word, the word. The word, the word. Switch the bracelet on the word, the word.